Hi, I'm Chike Coleman, and welcome back to another edition of Real Reviews Rewind, the show where we rewind the clock and look at some older films that have some cultural significance. Today I'm here with producer-director Luke Boyce of Shattered Glass Studios, and for this first inaugural guest appearance, I wanted to talk about a movie that means a lot to both of us. Ironically, this is the first movie I ever saw as a child. And that would be 1990's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have no idea who directed this film, I'm going to be very honest with you. But the thing that strikes me about this film is...
Scott something or other. Scott
something, yeah, you're right. The thing that strikes me about this film is just the tone. Now, keep in mind, this is a family film, right? It was a family film. Family Home Entertainment, I think, was the company that distributed it, and it was
on VHS, I believe.
Yeah, and
New Line Cinema was the.
That's
distributor.
right. Yeah, and it was the highest-grossing independent film for a number of years. Correct? I thought so.
Highest-grossing independent, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Highest-grossing independent film for a few years running, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's a family film, but it's really dark for a family film. You've got crime and ninjas stealing things, especially the beginning with the guy stealing the TV. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
That's really ridiculous to me. Just all of the rampant, direct violence within the line of sight of a 5-year-old. People are being beat up. There is a scene, maybe 20 minutes in, where April O'Neil is going to get robbed by the ninjas. And then the ninjas just show up and beat the crap out of him and then disappear. Oh, yeah. Because they did the whole thing in shadow.
Right.
And the other thing that makes this film so great, even though we all know that the turtles aren't real, Jim Henson's Creature Shop makes it real. What are some fond memories of the movie that you have, Luke? What made the impact on you for that film?
Well, I was 8 years old, so I was the audience for this film, right? I already watched the cartoon and was obsessed with the cartoon. I had all the toys. I was a huge Ninja Turtles fan. And then this movie came out, and it's one of the few memories going to a movie with my dad and my brother that I very, very vividly remember. Sometimes that stuff kind of, gets all mixed together in your head. But, gosh, it blew me away, man. The dark element of it for sure, because 8 years old, that's what you like, right? You're getting to the point where, oh, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But it was funny, and, it's just the way the turtles moved and the way they looked and how tangible. I mean, my dad was a big Jim Henson fan, huge Jim Henson fan. We watched The Storyteller and all this other stuff that he did as well. So I was already a huge fan of his Creature Shop stuff as well. So just from an appreciation level, even at 8 years old, I was on board completely. And still to this day, in fact, for San Diego Comic-Con, there's a toy company. I'm a big toy collector.
Okay. And
it's called NECA, NECA, and they put out incredible sculpted figures, kind of like a McFarlane Toys. People know McFarlane.
Yeah.
They just are releasing an exclusive set of movie accurate figures of all four turtles. They look incredible, and they've got a big diorama. I've got my order in for this thing. It's humongous.
What's the cost on that?
I don't want to say.
Oh, it's that bad?
Yeah, it's that bad.
Dude, I would totally love to own something
but
like that.
You got to check it out because it's so I'm a huge fan. I'm still a huge fan. I watched it a couple years ago, and I think it holds up. I mean, it's got that very weird 90s, late 80s, 90s sort of thing to it. But even when you compare it to other comic book movies at the time, because it was mostly based on the early comic books.
By Laird and something.
Yeah, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. It was a little. It attempted to be somewhat more grounded, which I
Yeah.
think I appreciated. Then a lot of the comic book movies at the time needed to be hyper stylized. You can look like a year later maybe at like Dick Tracy.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
I don't even think about that movie. That movie.
Oh, that movie. It's it has its issues, but it's unique and
we can all say
completely
that.
unique.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it still holds up partly because of that. It's also like you said, it was an indie film, and a little backstory. So basically, they had tried to sell it to Disney. They tried to sell it to Paramount, to MGM, to Orion. No one would take this thing because they were afraid that the movie would bomb, because only 2 years prior, I believe it was, Masters of the Universe came out and massively bombed at the box office. So this was, in their mind, this was a property mostly based on toys, even though it wasn't. It was a comic that became a cartoon that became a toy. So everyone was afraid to touch it. And so they went into production, raised the money themselves, and halfway through production got distribution through New Line, which at the time was a brand new upstart independent company.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know New Line would go on to do a lot of great things.
Yeah, including The Mask, which I like.
Yes. So I think it was made for $13 million-ish, something like that, which,
To
was
raise
still
that
a lot of
money
money.
in the 90s is insane.
A lot of, yeah, especially for something like this. But man, I mean, I think it paid off. I think that's why you get that tone that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have studio interference at all.
And I think the thing that really strikes me are a couple of things. Like, that movie was my first exposure to a curse word.
Yeah.
When in fact, like, what was it? Raphael was... Something had happened to one of the turtles, and he just yelled out in the street, "Damn!"
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, "Oh, what's wrong with him? Like, what's going on?" I didn't get any of the references as a kid, like the Humphrey Bogart reference. Didn't get that at all.
Yeah.
Thought Casey Jones was weird, but I also thought he was cool.
Yeah.
He had like a stick for every little thing in his sack, and I was like,
Great casting.
what is up with that? And so there are a bunch of really fun elements.
Yeah.
But the thing that really strikes me to my core is there's a lot of emotional family-related moments that are sprinkled throughout this film to make the whole thing kind of a connective tissue of a story about family and relying on each other and caring for one another. You get Danny and his relationship with his father. His relationship with April isn't as frayed, but that whole relationship and its breakdown because he doesn't feel listened to, he doesn't really feel seen. Because his dad works all the time. You have the relationship between Raphael and his brothers. He's more of an independent free spirit. They're more like, let's do things together, and Raphael is stubborn. And midway through the film comes probably the saddest moment in the entire film, with Raphael fighting ninjas and being thrown through a roof because he loses. And the impact of that on the brothers and how they all... This movie really breathes, actually. That's
it does,
the other
especially
main...
the farm scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything with that movie just breathes, and I think that that's something lost on modern superhero movies.
Totally.
They don't breathe, and this one
They don't slow down.
spends like 15 to 20 minutes on the farm with the brothers contemplating what's next for us.
Right, and meditating. I mean, for crying out loud.
And meditating to the point where they make a really sweet-ass holographic image of Splinter.
I love that scene.
That gets a chance to talk to them.
Sure.
And guide them. And I think that kind of motivation, that kind of family togetherness is really what brought the movie forward for me, even as a 31-year-old man. Like, for you, what's the impact for you?
Well, I think part of it is that you've got the four turtles have these very distinct personalities, right? Like they're all very, Donatello's the tech guy and Raphael is the angsty teen, and and it's all these very specific things, but the film really makes them into three-dimensional characters. It does. I mean, and part of that is the breathing, that it takes its time to do different things, but it could have been so much worse.
It could have been.
It could have been so much worse. And sure, I don't know that I'd say it's a masterpiece per se, but it does a lot of things really well, and it does a lot of things that I think I wish I could, like you said, I wish I saw more of in today's, I guess, comic adaptations.
Right, and there were, I guess, 3 different versions of April O'Neil that happened throughout the movie sequels. There's the original, who, that's all I see when I see April O'Neil is the original actress. I forget what her name is. But
she's a great actress.
What did you think of her performance in the film?
Oh yeah, she's my favorite. I'm trying to think. In the second one, you had like a well, at the time it was like she was brunette, and I was like, why is she brunette in the second one?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what her name was, and I can't think. Yeah, I mean, she's definitely my favorite of all the.
Because we have very few human characters in the film, and
correct.
So the ones we do get are standout, and we also have a young Sam Rockwell in this film. Ironically,
that's
enough,
right.
Which
that's right.
To me, I was like,
good mind.
No one would know this unless you showed me frames, and then you see it, and you're like, oh no.
That's like the weird. That's like the weird part of the movie is this. It's this like underground punk runaway kid thing that I'm trying to remember. I wish I would have recently seen it because I'm trying to remember what a few of the sort of weird plot holes were surrounding that thing, but it is sort of, it's very of its time. It's very, that's the part that does date a little bit. It's very late 80s.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Like, Sam Rockwell being a part of that.
But. Yeah, like the ninjas basically bully you into becoming a ninja.
Right.
So it's like high school all over again, except, oh, these people will support you if anything happens. No, I've seen those guys get beat up in that movie and then just leave the other ones behind. Like, oh, house fire inside this person's building.
Right.
All right, we're just going to GTFO. Sorry. And then they just leave. And you're just like, wait, but the people. Right. Like, so it's basically high school in ninja form.
Right.
Like varsity football player in ninja form. Okay, well,
I think it's supposed to be like a gang.
It's supposed to be, yeah.
It's supposed to, sort of feel like, or I guess the psychology of it is gang psychology. But you're kind of going, man, this thing could get taken down pretty quickly with loose lips. There's not a lot of discipline going on.
And they have the whole stereotype with the cops. Cops don't do jack.
Right.
You see maybe, a cop twice? No, you only see cop after the fact. I'm sorry. So you have when she's getting robbed, and then the cops later show up.
Well, you've got Chief, whatever his name is, that she hates.
Yeah, there's that guy. And then the cops at the end of the movie, after, spoiler alert, Shredder falls into a garbage truck?
Correct, yes.
But my question, and this is nitpicking because it's really a fun movie, right. How does he survive that? Does he sit Indian style while the compactor's compressing in and the metal just save him? Because he's in... But yet, no offense, this is the part where we just spoil the crap out of it. He dies by drowning in the second one?
Oh, it's been a while since I watched the second. I tried to watch the second one, did not hold up very well. I didn't.
Not at all, and that's my problem. Like,
that's not so great.
The tonal inconsistency is just hardcore bad.
It's very much the case of the first one you see clearly is a non-studio interference, and the second one is very much studio interference of trying to make it more family friendly. Doesn't quite work because, it's got a bunch of tonal weirdness in it.
Yes, because drafting Vanilla Ice would be a great idea for a girl.
Exactly, right. Yeah, talk about dating.
I mean, here's the thing that really makes it fun for me to watch these Ninja Turtles, well, the first one at least, over and over again. It's just... These people have the turtles have real problems. The people in their lives have real problems. Like, there's running jokes about, Casey Jones wanting to date April O'Neil, and April's like, no, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of like too clever and too sly for their own good. But as a 5 to 8-year-old, that's what makes it fun. It's
Right.
like these people, even though we don't know what dating is, are probably going to be romantically linked at some point because the movie's giving us hints and suggestions at that.
Sure.
And I think that's what makes it fun for us as,
Right.
80s, 90s kids. Like, oh, as an adult, we totally see this. This is all telegraphed. But it's also still remarkably fun in a way that we wouldn't expect.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, was that, you said it was a defining childhood memory for you. What about it, other than spending time with your brother and father to see that movie, makes it really work for you other than being a huge fan? Like, did you get more into Ninja Turtles after you saw the movie?
Oh, completely. Yeah, I mean, the movie's sort of like the pinnacle of, you see these things and it's like, yeah, I've got the toy and I've got the cartoon and that's a fun, escape, every Saturday morning, but a movie's totally different, right? Like a movie, it brings it all to life. It's got a serious story. It's got a serious, characterizations and all these other things. So, it just makes it bigger. It just makes it more impactful, right?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Are there things that you disliked about the film as a kid or now?
At the time, no. At the time it was like, where's Bebop and Rocksteady? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Where, and then the second one they have like the weird versions of them. But that was just that's just a kid not understanding how, now I appreciate it because I'm like, they're paring this thing down. They're keeping it lean, right? They're not throwing everything in the kitchen sink at it.
Yeah.
They're trying to tell their story, and they're doing it well. And I think that's why it works. I think a studio film probably would have thrown that in there, but at the time, no. I mean, I'm 8 years old, so it's not like I've got a very discerning mind. It's just sort of like. And I look back at stuff like that, and I think, especially in the late '80s and the early '90s, you did have a really strong line of children's or family entertainment movies that sort of took themselves fairly seriously,
like that Never-Ending Story,
or the Goonies, or things like that. But stuff that holds up really well because it was made. It was made well, and it was taken fairly seriously to a certain degree, I guess. It wasn't pandering exactly.
Oh, definitely didn't pander to the kids. No way.
No, and I think that as a kid, that helped me hone a certain love of cinema because I'm appreciating something as a kid, but I'm also viewing something that works structurally and works from a character perspective and works, all these other things. So.
Yeah, I see your point there. You kind of slowly learn what you want, and when something doesn't meet that, which would, in my mind, be everything after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I was like hoping something would meet that. I remember seeing my first PG-13 movie was Independence Day, and I remember liking that but being terrified of it.
Was that PG-13?
I think so.
Huh.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, it was either PG-13 or R, and
No, it was an R.
Then it had to be PG-13.
Okay, sure. No, I believe you.
The thing about that movie that weirds me out, and we'll go back to the Turtles in a second, is the idea that you're introducing, Earth's going to be blown up, and if you're a 10 or 11-year-old kid, you're almost ready to believe that, man. I mean, they make the effects so realistic that you're constantly worried about something like that, even though you know it's from. So it kind of shapes your storytelling a bit. And, I mean, for me, that was the main issue of watching that film. Other things revolving around the Turtles that I love, like you said, I love the animated series. What about the animated series made it fun for you?
The animated series doesn't hold up so well.
Really?
Yeah, I recently tried to watch it. It's just, there's a string of those 80s cartoons that if you have the nostalgia for it, you can get through them to a certain degree. If you don't, like Turtles and Transformers and all those 80s cartoons, G.I. Joe. They're done quickly and, as quick as they could, as cheap as they could.
Yeah.
I don't think that people quite appreciate how great animation is today. And the Turtles is a good example because the most recent Turtles series, the one that just ended.
The one on Nickelodeon?
Yeah, they're doing a new one again, but the one that just ended, the CG one,
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Really?
Phenomenal.
Oh, don't tell me that.
So good. I love it. I loved it.
See, I'm partial to the one from the 2000s.
That's a good one too. No, that one's a good one, but that one was more, and that was a huge step up. It was a little bit more for, older kids, and it really took a lot of. I believe that one had Kevin Eastman attached, so it followed the comics storylines really.
And you
closely.
had Casey Jones, and it was kind of like that 2D, not cell shaded, but like.
No, it was the quality was good on that one. It definitely had that early 2000s feeling, but the recent one, and a lot of these most recent. I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Star Wars Rebels, Rick and Morty. A lot of recent cartoons have writing staff that work on a lot of other like normal television shows.
Yeah.
They have really strong voice acting. The quality level has just skyrocketed. And just, the production, because of computers, obviously the production has gotten so good. And so, yeah, that new series especially is probably I would probably say I love that 90 movie. Probably of all my Turtles love, other than the comics, that's probably media-wise my favorite. I would probably say this recent show is probably my next favorite.
So for me, I actually, and this is really, really strange, you may not remember this, or you may. If you do, that's great. There's a Turtles episode where Michelangelo gets to become a human for a day.
You mean in the original series?
In the original series, yeah. There's that.
I don't remember that.
There's that, and there's one where basically the Turtles find out, because Shredder not Shredder, is that right? No. Yes. Because Shredder experimented on us, we now have, like, this next level of craziness we can go to, and they became, like, these gunky, more muscular versions of the Turtles.
Uh-huh.
And that was, like, in the last few seasons of the show.
Sure.
I feel like the movie values of the Turtles weren't present in the animated show, but that was okay because that was one of those things where you could just shut your brain off.
Fun. Yeah, that show was just pure fun. I mean, it was a blast.
But since we're talking animation, I'm going to really switch gears for a bit.
Okay.
I hate that animation style that they use in Rebels and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
The animation, the CG?
The kind of CG they use. Because I'm so used to, I'm sure you saw this, X-Men Evolution and Wolverine and the X-Men. That kind of animation style is what I'm so used to. And I don't know what it is, because I kind of liked the Clone Wars when I first saw it, because that's connected to Rebels, of course.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like, I don't know what it is, why it doesn't really connect with me.
Well, the Turtles one does something really interesting where, first of all, I love the designs of the characters.
Yeah.
But they incorporate a lot of 2D elements into the 3D nature of the animation.
Okay.
And so, have you ever watched any of the episodes?
I've not.
I would encourage you to watch it because I don't think I would not put the Turtles on the same plane as the Rebels animation. Mm-hmm. The Turtles one is a very more cartoony sensibility to it, and they do a lot of really interesting things with how they incorporate different 2D elements, and there's always like a bumper transition that might be 2D. Yeah. They'll move into like 2D versions of them and then move out. So
actually, I take it back. Really I did see it once. It was the one where the turtle got the infection and it spread throughout all the other turtles. Like I think Mikey got an infection and then infected everybody else.
Okay. I don't
And
remember
there was
that
like
one.
one turtle left standing. I'll
Yeah.
figure out what it is after the show and post.
Okay.
But yeah,
The newest comics are phenomenal too.
I have never read the comic.
The newest reboot that they did is just super good, and they changed the story in a really interesting way that originally I thought I would not like.
Okay, well, what do they do?
Well, basically, in the new comic, the turtles are reincarnated of sons from feudal Japan. They are actually Splinter's sons, reincarnated as turtles. They're all reincarnated into these animals.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really and the writing, the art and everything is just super great.
Okay, now that's something I might have to check into.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Kind of reminds me, since we're on heroes, I'm just going all over the place.
All right, do it, man. It's your show.
I'm going to have to rename this show. Instead of Real Reviews Reround, we're going to call it Waxing Nostalgia. So, a couple other things.
Nostalgia sells.
You mentioned animation. So, another
Yeah.
thing that I watched when I was growing up was Back to the Future, the animated series.
Yeah, I remember that one for sure.
While it didn't really have the educational value of, say, your regular Saturday morning cartoon,
Did Saturday morning cartoons have educational value? I don't know.
I don't
Schoolhouse
think
Rock, I guess, but go on. Sorry.
Yeah. So there's that. So you have all these great 90s, late 80s movie properties that are becoming animated series. And what do you think that really spawned from? It wasn't really to tell more story. Why was that happening? Why was that a trend in the 90s and late 80s?
I think part of it was if there were toys involved. Usually cartoons, for the most part, even today, are tied directly to toy sales. If toys do not sell, the cartoon dies.
Mm-hmm.
Almost always. So that's part of it. It's part of it is, excuse me. If a property is really popular and they know that they can get a lot of advertisers because of that, because of viewership. I mean, that's why you had, let me see, Back to the Future is one that I watched. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh, I love that
was a great
one, though.
Yeah, there was a great Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice,
that was a good
that
one.
was great.
The real Ghostbusters, obviously.
I also remember Attack of the Killer Tomatoes had one as well.
That's right, they did. They did.
Which is really strange because you would think something like that wouldn't have that.
Right. Yeah, and I don't remember there being. I mean, like obviously, I don't think there were toys for the Back to the Future one, but I think probably at that point that series was a way to keep that series going for kids, and I can't say specifically what would have caused that, but I mean, obviously, those were all very popular films that could bring viewers in. I mean, you and I remember it, so
Yeah, I mean, there's so much great 90s stuff. And I know the next time I have you here, I just want to talk animation, but I don't know where we would go with that.
Oh, jeez.
More TV animation than movie animation, because movie animation is now so prevalent within our society.
Yeah, and we've really kind of lost the Saturday morning thing.
Oh, it died in 2002.
Well, part of that is that when there were less channels and you would cram a lot of content onto the major networks, and I think that's part of it too. Is that that's where the bulk of kids advertising happened, was on all those major networks, and and then eventually that kind of got pushed to like WB, and you had the WB kids, and Nickelodeon took a big chunk of that and stuff like that. But it just was a treasure trove of advertising for kids. So why not just throw, if kids like Back to the Future, get Back to the Future cartoon going, and then sell a bunch of stuff while they're watching it. So you don't have that anymore because you don't have the high concentration of kid watching on Saturday morning.
Yeah,
that just really died off.
And by the end of 2011, they were trying to get kids to go outside and be more active.
I don't know if that was networks necessarily, but sure. Probably.
Yes, that failed miserably. No one wanted to do it.
Why would a kid go if they have an iPad now?
Dang, I forget. Yeah, you're reminding me that technology exists now. But yeah, this has been a really fun conversation.
Totally.
I hope we get to do it soon because I literally have the full idea in my head of what we could talk about next.
All right, anytime.
Which is Saturday morning cartoons.
There you go.
So until next time, I'm Chike Coleman. That's Luke Boyce, and we will see you guys later. Bye, guys.
Thanks.